Hey everybody, this is Larry the Cable Guy. Check this out. So I'm in my truck driving with my buddy, and we was heading up to the men's warehouse to fart in the suits, and he's listening to his phone. And I said, that sounds like Hermie Sadler. He said, it is Hermie Sadler. He's got a podcast called Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator. I said, Sadler and the Senator? He said, yeah, that's his good buddy, Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley. I said, well, what in the world? He didn't know this. I said, did you know that Hermie Sadler was voted one of the 50 best looking drivers in NASCAR? He said, I did not know that. I said, because it ain't true. You never know, though. He never takes off his helmet. But I know one thing. This show, Leaning Right, Turning Left, is good. So pull up a chair right there by your phone, get yourself a cold beer, and give a listen right here to this week's episode of Leaning Right, Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator. I'll tell you what, I bet Michael Waltrip's even listening. He's always wanted to do something like that. Oh, Sadler, got another one over on Waltrip. Get her done.
I'm Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley, and I'm leaning right.
And I'm Hermie Sadler, and from the South Boston Speedway in South Boston, Virginia, I'm turning left, leaning right, and turning left with Sadler and the Senator is back, powered by Pace-O-Matic.
Good morning, Hermie.
Senator, how are you?
Well, had a kind of a rainy night here at South Boston. Pulled the RV, which we're sitting in right now, the Stanley Law Group RV. Pulled it into the track last night. Bobby Labonte came in. He's just right next to us. We had a good time.
Motorhome is bigger than yours.
His motorhome makes my motorhome look like one of them pop-up tents at them homeless camps.
So what are you going to do about it?
I'm trading this in next week.
Yeah.
Just, every time I see somebody
I saw
with a
you
better
at there
motorhome,
measuring his motorhome, Bobby's, and are looking for one inch longer than his, and we can expect to see that maybe at Martinsville a week from Thursday night at the Wheeling Modified Tour race at Martinsville Speedway.
That sucker is 45 foot, and
so there's got to be a 45 and a half one somewhere.
Yeah, and but I don't know that I can drive that one. I'm learning.
Did Bobby drive his?
Yeah, Bobby drives his. He comes in here. He drove it here. He drove it to Pulaski in the last week's race, and we camped out together, and we're camping out again. But it was rainy. It was windy, so there wasn't a lot of festivities. I got to bed about 8:30, slept 10 hours, and got up early, and so got it going. So we're only staying tonight. It's Sunday. Our race was canceled here at South Boston Speedway on Saturday. So now it's Sunday. Well, this is Sunday morning right now. The teams are all kind of piling into the track. This is a very exciting race, and we'll explain why. We've got a lot on the line. But what is really more exciting to me is that in my little 30-foot RV, I not only have my best friend, Hermie Sadler, but I got the one, the only, Shep Moss back, everybody. Hallelujah. Thank the Lord.
The man purse has made another appearance.
Man, Hermie's fanny pack is back.
I thought it was over.
Yeah.
Well, I kept getting emails from Alan Joseph. Look, the ratings have gone through the damn floor. Get back up there. I said, all right, I'll work it out, Alan. I'll take care of it.
I must confess, there were people that have texted me and contacted me saying, did Shep quit?
That just burned your ass.
Ourselves.
Doesn't it just chap
your ass? He will quit. He will quit on you.
I mean, it was not inconsistent with the way 2023 has played itself out with Shep Moss this year.
Yeah.
It has been, we didn't know. In fact, we've had, 3 podcasts where you and I have pondered this very question.
Yeah.
Is Shep gone for good? Is Shep holding out? Is he on strike?
Yeah, because he's hired an agent to represent him.
Alan Joseph?
Well, a huge firm out of New York.
Oh, really?
Representing Shep Moss, Inc.
Alan's just representing the pod. I actually had to engage in a real attorney that can actually win a case.
Why are you looking at me when you say that?
That can actually win a case.
Way easy there. No, come on, kid.
Hey, I will say this is a beautiful motorhome.
Thank you. You haven't quit.
This is beautiful. No, I have not quit.
All right, Shep is back, ladies and gentlemen.
If you start winning some court cases, you can up your hourly rate and get a motorhome like Bobby Labonte.
Yeah, and let me tell you something. Up to Friday, I was on a streak. I was on 3 weeks, wasn't losing. Now, a couple of those wins were because of Hermie Sadler directly, and we discussed this on the prior podcast, where I had walked into 2 courtrooms in 2 different counties, and once they learned one in the first case that he was sitting there, I got moved to the front of the line. And got all the grace and privileges that.
And what county was it?
That would have been Greensville.
Gotcha.
And then I was in Brunswick without Hermie for Burt Myers, a racer here at the Smart Modified Series, and I sat down with the officer that gave him the ticket, And, I tried this is Burt Myers, and he didn't really know or care. But then he looked over at me and said, "You partners with Hermie Sadler." He raced dirt, and we had a great conversation. He showed me his cars, and because of Hermie, I got a good disposition from Burt Myers on a speeding ticket, because he said, "Well, yeah, and Burt had tickets since '93, so we gave him a little grace."
But
as we usually do with a lot of
the one
people.
that has had some questionable equipment on his car, or nefarious activities,
to say the least.
May call it.
I mean, is that? But it's the same driver.
Yeah, Burt Myers.
So he was probably claiming a faulty speedometer or something.
Well, if he was using traction control like he's been accused of using here in the Smart Series, he wouldn't have gotten that speeding ticket.
Right.
He could have used that brake when he needed it. But all worked out.
No pun intended, use that brake.
Yeah. So here I was again, Hermie Sadler. I can do anything I want to do, but as a great attorney. But as long as I know the guy that owns a gas station, man, I'm in like Flynn. So, Hermie. Yeah, well, good job. And welcome back, Shep.
It is great to be back.
You've been doing a lot. If you go and follow Shep Moss on Party Time DJ.
Party Time Music, DJ Shep Moss.
And you've been having some big time.
It's wedding season, man.
And that's why you hadn't been here.
That's correct.
He DJ'd a wedding last night at the Sadler barn.
At the Estates.
Not related to a Sadler, though.
No, I mean, some mutual friends of mine and my brothers had a wedding last night at the Sadler barn, the famous Sadler barn that Shep has DJ'd at many, many times over the years, including all the way back to when I got married.
There's some funny stories about that, aren't there?
But they're after 8.
Good thing those walls don't talk.
They're after 8.
Now, wait a minute. What about that story about your dad? About timing. I thought that was a good story. No?
For an appropriate podcast.
Okay, but that's not here.
Let's just go back to the barn. Introduced some people to the Spice Channel theme song. Remember that?
I seem to recall something like that.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's all we need to say about the barn.
So that was at the barn?
No, I don't know what he's talking about.
I thought Plug Moore said that it was at the house.
In the big house, in the den.
I thought it was at the barn. I stand corrected.
Well, there you go. So welcome back, Shep. Good to have you back. He's wearing the appropriate SS Racing Sadler Stanley Racing gear.
Yeah, I want to thank Bobby Labonte for getting this for me, too. It only took about a year to get it.
I gave it to you after hearing you all the time. Well, we got an exciting race coming up, and let's talk about that first. Last week, we were talking about Bobby Labonte. It's entitled, the podcast is Bobby Labonte Wins. Gets our first win for this year for SSR Racing. Basically puts us on the map. And I mistakenly, when we were taping that podcast last week, had him in the wrong position. And you did. And I never like being wrong, especially when you're right. But I was wrong. And it appears that from that win, which was last week at Tri-County in North Carolina.
His first victory ever there.
And it's turned out to be that he is in 4th place, 4 points back in the Smart Series Modified Championship run. And we can, if he places well tonight and makes up some of those points, we will be in the Smart Modified Championship race at the Battle of Rougemont at Orange County Speedway in North Carolina. And that's on what, the 28th of October?
Mm-hmm. Yep, 2 weeks.
And not only that, we've got both cars, the 39 and the 18 VAs, in a position where we could win owners championships based on the point system there.
Wow.
So we went from the outhouse to the penthouse pretty quick here. So we're going to be rooting hard for Bobby Labonte. Well, there you go. Actually, you saw my Class C, right? I used to have a Class C.
I saw it.
Yeah, and that was the one. That was when the was full.
This got full quick. And had like a 5-gallon tank.
Yeah, and after that, because remember Wilkesboro was so hot, we were at North Wilkesboro at the race that Ryan Newman won, and it was so hot in that RV with one air conditioner and these two little rugrats, my son and my nephew. I felt like I was in a Civil War submarine with 2 sweaty midgets, and I had to switch. And so Hermie likes to give me crap because I had that RV all for about 3 months.
Yep.
And then after that, went to this one, but we're really happy with this one. It's
no, you're not. You're already measuring Bobby Labonte's over there. You're not so happy.
But again, I can't drive it. And let me tell you, because my friend and our friend Hermie always says if I'm traveling, he's like, are you finished with your white knuckling experience? Because the first time I drove an RV, my wife surreptitiously was taking pictures of me, and it looked like I was trying to crap a peach seed. And so then Hermie sends a picture of him in his RV, gripping the wheel, looking all crazy, like he's, scared. And so I've tried to learn the finer art of driving a Class A, and I'm getting pretty good at it.
Relax.
But the first 20 minutes, my wife thinks we're going off the road to the right. And I mean, it is.
She said you like the white line a little bit.
Listen, I don't want a head-on collision, that's for sure. I mean, I'll take my chances on the right-hand side, but I don't believe I'll never cross it over. I've got 2 side mirrors that show you the lines on the bottom, and then I got this TV screen right there in the cockpit that shows you can go left, right, and back. Yeah. It has cameras. So I'm always watching what's going on, but for the first 15 minutes, man, she's like, Bill.
Oh God,
I've never heard that in 11 years.
Yeah, you don't hear that much. Only when you're driving.
Bill. No, haven't heard that in a while. So,
does she ever say, oh, Hermie? Oh, Hermie?
Not yet.
Okay.
But, maybe.
Bill got to work on his sponsorships more.
Look, I was trying frantically, yesterday, to get in touch with Bill. We'll get into some of this in a little while.
Yeah.
But I was frantically Saturday morning, trying to get in touch with Bill. And I called, text. He was busy, whatever he was doing. So ultimately, I texted Laura, his wife.
Instant results.
And within 30 seconds, Bill was calling. And so I said, just make sure you understand, Senator, you're my best friend. I only text your wife if I'm horny or if I need to get in touch with you about an emergency.
That went over real well with Laura. Real well.
So if you are horny, that probably is an emergency.
That went over really, really like a lead balloon.
So a message to all my friends that are clients of Bill Stanley: if you really need to get in touch with him, you're going to have to go through his wife.
Just get horny and call Laura. He'll call you right back. Well, what is this sitting up here on the table? What the hell is sitting up here on the table?
That is not.
It's an unopened pack of Nicorette gum.
Unopened?
Unopened.
Oh, okay.
Unopened, yeah.
So
still to be open.
I think Hermie was telling me that, Bill, you had plans to quit smoking earlier this week.
Had plans,
and then you got your ass kicked Friday. So now you've quit on quitting smoking.
Aren't you glad to have Shep back? The way he puts things into those kind of words.
Turn down his microphone and let's you and I just have a conversation. I miss those days when it was just you and me. No, so we'll talk
Alan
about
Joseph
that too.
doesn't.
I've been on a winning streak, and I was really, I love to try cases, and so I was trying a bunch of cases, and for the last 4 weeks, I've been not losing in court, and then Friday kind of hit us in the face, and I had told Hermie we were getting ready for a deposition, and I looked at Hermie and I said, "This is my last pack. When I'm done with this, no more." And after Friday, I stopped at 7-Eleven and I got me a pack, and I also had
not only a pack,
not just a pack,
not just a pack.
So, and then I hadn't been drinking brown liquor, and when I got home Friday night, and we had a bunch of stuff going on by then, and Hermie and I talked on the phone probably 3 or 4 times. I said, I'm going to give me 3 fingers full of the Buffalo Trace, and so that's how I ended my Friday.
You said you haven't been losing cases. I thought you and Troy lost a federal case a couple of weeks ago.
What is wrong with you?
See how it feels?
Damn.
See how it feels?
The quitter's coming on strong.
Damn right.
All this thing has been pent up.
But wasn't that a federal case you lost?
We lost a motions hearing in a federal case.
Got you.
Yeah, but otherwise,
I see a.
But those
pattern not over yet.
No, I see a pattern develop.
If you try a federal case and a criminal federal case, I mean, you are climbing Mount Everest.
I can wait to see Ned the next time I say, you mean you get Shep? He's going to be not only no, but hell no. All right, so tell everybody what happened Friday. I mean, I know some people may know, have heard. My phone from small business owners across Virginia has been absolutely blowing up since lunchtime on Friday. I know yours has as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people negatively impacted by this, but you're the lawyer, and so tell everybody what took place on Friday.
Well, as everybody knows who listens to this podcast, and certainly we've got a lot of operators, people that own convenience stores, truck stops, restaurants, and bars who have the legitimate bona fide skill games in their establishment, and they're on because of our injunction. And if you know, we sued the state of Virginia. The legislature passed an unconstitutional law.
Under Ralph Northam.
Mm-hmm. Court found that it was unconstitutional. Next year, some of the people that may be influenced by the casino interest decided they were going to be cute, and they put a piece of legislation amending that law that we had determined to be unconstitutional in the budget, which never happened, shouldn't happen, and is highly unusual, which then changed the law that was found to be unconstitutional They changed it to try to fix it and also interfere with our court case, which is something they swear they're never going to do. And so they put this piece of legislation in the budget bill, and we amended our complaint, and we filed, and the other side demurred and pleaded and barred, and we went through preliminary motions, getting ready for our December 10th trial. And the court said, I'm gonna extend the injunction until December 10th. And a lot of the extension was because the Attorney General's office was fiddle-farting around with this case. I mean, we couldn't get an order entered forever, it seemed, just on the extension of the injunction alone. And long story short, they appealed. Casinos filed amicus briefs, friend of the court briefs. They basically argued two things. One was that the court couldn't enlarge the injunction, which the court can. And two, that the injunction itself was without basis. Supreme Court took it under advisement, accepted all the briefs, and on Friday, as we were getting ready to do your deposition, and we were getting ready to head over, we were in my office in Richmond, my law office there, the opinion came down, dissolving the injunction, vacating the injunction. There are two different reasons. Remanding it for trial. We're still going to trial in December. And basically, instead of saying, the court needs to look at the four factors of what's called the winner's case to grant an injunction, it said that we didn't have a likelihood of success on the merits. It said we were right. The first law was unconstitutional, but we think there's a difference because
they fixed it in the budget.
Well, first of all, they equated skill games of skill, with sweepstakes games. And then they called it gambling instead of a skill game when you put money up to try to win something and use your skill, that's not gambling. When you put money up to try to win something that's based 100% on chance, that's gambling. A scratch ticket is the easiest way to describe this, or a slot machine.
Sure.
You pay the $2 for the scratcher. That's the, other than scratching it with a quarter, that's it when it comes to you controlling the outcome to win your money back or win more. In this case, they conflated the two, I think, improperly. It was 3 justices. It's on a snap appeal right now because it's kind of like what we call an interlocutory appeal. And so ultimately they weighed in and believe that skill games is gambling, which I think is an error, respectfully. And I think they confused themselves on what is a skill game in terms of conflating it again with sweepstakes, which are gambling, games of chance. And then, they basically said, we don't think that Sadler has a likelihood of success on the merits, and so that's why we're vacating the injunction at this time. And what it did was, the injunction protected the bona fide legitimate skill games throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia, about 7,200 games or more, that are in small businesses like yours, Hermie, restaurants, bars, truck stops, convenience stores. Yep. Good small business owners that have been living by the law, not the ones like in the vape shops and the parlors that have these VGTs, which are games of chance.
Who we have always agreed with casinos and otherwise that we should be locking arms together and trying to get rid of the people that do not follow the law.
Right. And so now what they've basically done, and I don't think they realized how bad they did it, but they've turned probably I think there's 2,500 to 3,000 convenience store owners, small business Virginia owners that have now, by this stroke of the pen by 3 justices out of the 7, not the full panel. And that's why this is kind of, I think I question it.
It's not even a majority.
It's not even a majority. It's not the full court making their decision. They've turned these small business owners into overnight criminals. And so now by having those games, which you can't just shut down overnight, you can't just unplug them. They have the payouts, they have the histories that they
Plus
need
they've got in layman's terms, a brain inside of those games that has to be disabled and taken out of the game. The only way to ensure that the games are not played until all these different manufacturers can get around and have all these games picked up is to have them disabled. They got like a dongle thing, they call it, that has to be taken out.
Dongle?
Yes, exactly. That's the only way to ensure that the game is disabled. And
that takes time too. Yeah. And because it's an intricate piece of machinery. And so, we're trying to make sure that these convenience store owners who are legitimate, who are not criminals, who are working, their small businesses and they depend on this income, to not all of a sudden be raided by the SWAT team in Goochland County.
Now, Bill, I want to go back to something you said earlier. Explain to the listeners why there is a long-standing tradition of not legislating through the budget. There's no law against it, but it is a long-standing understanding, and it's because the budget only lasts for
2 years.
2 years.
So a budget is an appropriations bill that has a shelf life of 2 years. So now for this law to stay in effect, and they put in what we call the after clauses, that this law will not expire, which is silly because this law now has to be in the budget every 2 years. 2 years, every year, because we amend the budget the second year. Every year from here on out. It does not become part of codified Virginia code law because it's in the 2 year budget. One, that's just crazy. Two, that's a criminal code putting in the budget, which we never do. And yet, the powers that be at the top of the food chain, the very few, decided, well, you beat us this way, this is how we're going to beat you that way. And that's what they did. And I will say respectfully that the Supreme Court did not even look at the overbreadth, the vagueness of the writing of that bill or that rewriting that criminal code at all. Because what they've done is, in effect, every Golden Tee that has a payout, every Galaga, every Miss Pac-Man that gives you free games, which is something of value, every crane game that has a teddy bear when your kid runs up there and says, "Daddy, can I have $1?" They don't even realize that those are illegal too. So Walmart's a criminal because they've got those crane games. So every place that has something like that, or a coin pusher game, or
Chuck E. Cheese,
Chuck E.
Dave
Cheese,
Dave and Buster's, the State Fair that's currently
they are illegal.
Yeah,
and they don't even realize it because I think this was a little short-sighted in their measurement. Their timing was god awful. And one thing I can say, Herm, I have heard, and I think you have too, without more, legislators from both sides of the aisle totally appalled, totally shocked, totally mad, saying their people are mad. And you're seeing a grassroots uprising of these skill game owners and the players saying this isn't right, we got to do something about it. And suddenly I think because all of my legislative friends, because I'm doing this court case, I can't vote, I don't involve myself in that, on legislation that involves skill games, because ethically I'm true to my ethics, I'm not going to do anything wrong. All of a sudden they see the real world problem that this has created. And the real world problem is that convenience store that is able to stay open because of the way the federal government and state government have controlled our economy, demand that we pay somebody behind a cash register $15, $16, $17 an hour. They're hanging on. The difference, the delta for them have been these skill games, and that have got a lot of fans who want to play. There's a skill games Facebook page where the players talk back and forth on how to win the games and what to do. And I saw hundreds and hundreds of people lamenting the fact of this, what I would say is not a great Supreme Court ruling, but that's where we are right now. It does not stop our trial. We've got trial December 10th. I cleared my schedule for this week. So after I leave here tonight from South Boston, I get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, drive. I got a case in Chesterfield. Then I am staying in Richmond all week because we have so many issues in this case. And for all convenience store owners and people that are playing the game that wonder what's next, one, I think we have to figure out a way during the pendency of this, if this vacating the injunction stands, how we disable these games in a reasonable manner and not make criminals out of people just because they were operating yesterday under a law that was in existence. Two, we have so many due process issues, and we have the overbreadth of that law as it affects all the rest of the games. We have so many that I don't want to go into, but they're in our amended complaint. They're in our original complaint. And so we just have to retool our argument. The court at the trial court level in Greensville liked the First Amendment. We all like the First Amendment too, but we have multiple arguments to demonstrate why this law is unconstitutional. And I think we are able now to more fully develop those, and that's going to change our strategies in court, in trial. But, this wasn't the only issue we were hanging our hat on. We had multiple issues. Now these other multiple issues take even a bigger precedent and are that much more important than they were before Friday's ruling from the Virginia Supreme Court.
I'll just say a couple things. Obviously, I'm the plaintiff in this case, and take Hermie Sadler and the Sadler family and our convenience stores, truck stops, and restaurants out of the picture for just a minute. I'm disappointed because this is devastating to, I'm going to say hundreds, if not thousands of Virginia small business owners and operators, single moms, single dads, all these people that work at these locations are being negatively impacted by this Supreme Court ruling. And one of the frustrating things for me, Bill, is you've got the Supreme Court. Look, and I'm going to follow the law. I'm going to respectfully follow the law.
You always have.
Whatever they say.
And so have all these owners that have the bona fide skill games in their stores.
The people that are really fighting for what's right do the right thing when it's in our favor and do the right thing when it's not in our favor. This has been a roller coaster, a ride of a lifetime. That's not over, but this is disappointing because I know personally a lot of people that are worried about their livelihood and their ability to maintain their commitments to their employees, and things like that. But the first thing that I thought about after I got over the initial shock and disappointment of this ruling was that two things. You've always told me, Hermie, you have to respect the process.
Yes,
I have. That there's no shenanigans. There's no politics. You have to trust the process. And so I'm going to try to keep doing that. But the first thing that once I had a chance to take a deep breath and think about it, I asked myself the question, would these three justices have thought or maybe ruled differently had they been at our injunction trial? Because we, for hours and hours and hours, and witnesses and witnesses and witnesses, and testimony from government agencies like the ABC and otherwise, eloquently and without doubt, that these games are games of skill. They're not gambling like games of chance. And we didn't just say it, we proved it to the circuit court. So these justices that have made this decision that are impacting so many people that they don't know or to the levels that they don't understand, it would have been nice for them to at least be or have been there when we proved all these things at the circuit court level. And so, but I just am frustrated with the fact that there are politics in play here. There are politics in play here, and there are real life people, family, businesses, situations that are affected by this that, I don't think people on the other side, and certainly the Supreme Court, took into consideration. Here we are, less than 2 months away from going to a final trial, and for them to get involved at this level to this point at this time was disappointing for some of those reasons.
Hermie, let me ask you this, because you're a small business owner. They take away this stream of revenue. What potential possibilities do you see with other convenience store, other restaurants, other bar locations? They could potentially have problems keeping their employees.
Well, I don't know other people. I don't know other people's livelihoods or P&Ls, or I just know by proxy in this lawsuit, we're representing, as I said a few moments ago, hundreds, if not thousands of small business owners and their families and their employees. I've heard through the course of this trial from hundreds of small businesses saying, y'all are doing things that we could not have done. You have enabled us to continue to operate in a tough business. I mean, Bill mentioned the way our government is rewarding people who don't work.
Yeah.
It's causing the legitimate business owners to pay, in some cases, higher than deserved wages for some people. My insurance has never been higher. My benefits have never cost more. Price of gas, we all talk about that all. It's just a bad environment. And so, when this decision comes out, people are, the people that are gloating are saying, we got y'all, we shut y'all down. And I'm going to read something that someone sent me, not anybody here, but one of the longtime nemesis of skill games, in part because his wife is a lobbyist for the other side of the aisle, the casinos, is Tommy Norman. Tommy Norman, his quote on this was, quote, "It has been too long in coming to shut down these parasitic machines which have contributed nothing to the public good." So
the tax revenue.
That was in a news article with my quote right above it.
So
fighting. Still fighting.
On behalf of me, not Senator Stanley, not anybody else, but on behalf of me and these other small businesses that have legally operated these machines and used it to employ people in the Commonwealth of Virginia, build businesses in the Commonwealth of Virginia, pay taxes in the Commonwealth of Virginia, all these other things, I say Tommy Norman can kiss my ass.
Well, that was the point I was trying to make. You may lose employees. Your customers may have to see an increase in price on the other products, because as a small business owner, you're going to have to, or most businesses will probably have to replace this revenue stream. In fact, one of the politicians, I believe from Northern Virginia, said they'll just have to find another way to make money.
That's right.
Well, it's easy to say that when you're not in the trenches trying to do it every day. And
well,
it's
if it
just
doesn't affect
unfortunate.
you,
Yeah, then you don't know.
You know, if it doesn't affect you, and that's one thing I've said all along. We're fighting for many reasons. One of the many reasons that I'm passionate about this fight is that I believe that the free market system is worth fighting for. I believe that people having the ability to decide where they go spend their money in the Commonwealth of Virginia is worth fighting for. So some people that are on the other side of this fight are going to say, I invest in casinos and I don't want anybody going to play a skill game at a convenience store. They need to go to my casino and play. That's what's important to them. But what's important to me and what's important to a lot of other people is, what about the fundamental aspect of the free market system? How are we going to tell people that in Virginia and in the United States, you can live the American dream if we set a precedent that says for enough money, the government is going to decide who's going to win and who's going to lose and who is supposed to, where you're supposed to go spend your money. That's what bothers me about this more than any. Am I going to be hurt, my company, by the loss of revenue? Yes. Are we going to have to find other ways to make up that difference? Yes. Are we going to have to raise prices on hot dogs, hamburgers, potato chips,
cigarettes?
Yes. All this. But I'm saying these people don't think about all of these challenges that these business owners have at a time when there's no margin for error. And you got somebody in a position like Tommy Norman who has ulterior motives. He's going to make a tone-deaf statement like that when, look, Tommy Norman's in a good position. He's got money. He's got status. He's got all these things. But there are people today operating small businesses in the Commonwealth of Virginia trying to decide, with this devastating news, how am I going to survive? How am I going to make my payroll next week, next month? How, we are supposed to be the backbone of the economy in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And Tommy can be happy that his wife's side won. No problem. But why would he make a comment that directly is derogatory towards small businesses in the Commonwealth of Virginia that operate and pay taxes and employ people? That's what's disappointing to me, is we got people like that
and law-abiding
that are so self-centered and arrogant and all these other things, couldn't care less if a mom and pop convenience store or restaurant or bar is going out of business.
Well, he drives by them in his very expensive car on his way to one of his hotels or one of his speaking engagement or one of his.
And I know you have to deal with these people, and I'm sorry.
Only for a little while longer. I mean, he's out, and I've gotten from him on the podcast, earlier podcast that he got a transcript of that said, oh, I don't like what you're saying about me. Too bad, you're gone. Get out of here. He's gone. And quite frankly, he served a long time in Virginia. He's done some good things. He's been transactional. But in a lot of ways, that statement, which when I read it, I was aghast in the sense that, first, he calls the games parasitic. but he voted for gambling casino style. What is that? Is that not a parasite? Because it comes in like a Rosie's, in my opinion, or a casino, in my opinion, into your community and sucks out the dollars from the people that can least afford them. Doesn't provide any other service. I mean, convenience stores, truck stops, bars, and restaurants have service orientation to the people that they serve. But they come in there and they suck out that money and they send it to another state. They don't involve themselves in the community. They raise some local tax revenue and they raise some state tax revenue, and that's all they owe. And then they dictate policy. Isn't that the definition of politically parasitic? And then the second part that gets me, riled up, and especially when it was right underneath a quote from me saying, look, we understand the decision. We don't think it's correct, and we're ready to fight, because we're ready to fight. But then he says that have never done any good. Is that what basically he said?
Wasn't it $120 million in tax revenue?
120 during the COVID pandemic. During the COVID pandemic, something that your casinos and your VGTs,
he said,
did not do.
It has been too long in coming to shut down these parasitic machines which have contributed nothing to the public good.
Nothing to the public good. So number one, then that $150 million that came in during the COVID era that was able to help people with COVID relief was no good for the community. That allowing these skill games to be turned on after the government shut down restaurants and bars and made the convenience stores carry the weight when they had no employees. It was the difference between them staying open and closing in a lot of food deserts throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia, where people were depending on those convenience stores for food.
Well, now
or gas.
Now you're going to see higher prices.
But how is that no good for the common man or the common good? What is that quote again? I mean, it's that it did nothing good. Now it's keeping these great small business owners afloat, when that government said you must pay them at least $15 an hour if they're going to work in your store. Yep. And by the way, the cost of goods and the cost of living is going up through bad business decisions. Do you know what's not good for the common good? What government does. Not these skill games, not these small business owners. Because you know what that statement is? That is a statement of on high from an ivory tower of someone who looks down on people, who treats people differently based on class. And this is the same guy, the leader of my caucus, going out the door, thank God, just like that slamming door. My son just doesn't remember we're taping. But just like that, he was the one that called people who own convenience stores that had these games in them Alibabas. And it wasn't because he's talking about a carpet ride. He's talking about the nationality. That is racist. In my opinion, that is ultimately racist. He called them Alibabas. He said it right on the floor of the Senate when we were debating this issue a couple years back when we were in the science building, that these are Alibabas. Alibabas, huh? Because he looks down on people. Good riddance. Get the out of here, Tommy Norman. You don't shut your mouth. Go back to your big house and be irrelevant. You're done. Let the rest of the people rule Virginia now, because your time is over. And you know what? That guy's not even a senator, because he knew that he was going to be primaried with Ryan McDougal, and Ryan would have kicked his ass in a primary. That's my rant. Thanks for getting me all pissed off, Herm.
Well, and he apparently forgot the Republican oath that we have quoted several times on the previous issues of the podcast, where it stands for small business. We got some late breaking news here.
Now he's reading something not related to this. Go ahead, Shep.
Well, again, Hermie, I'm going to predict that the consumers are ultimately going to pay the price for this governmental decision.
Well, I'm telling you
because now the drink that you go in and buy for $1.49 might become $1.99.
And that's not extortion or holding.
No, they have to replace this revenue. They have to.
Just like Hermie said.
Or cut jobs.
And, it goes even farther than that, because, the most important thing is that we depend on these small businesses, especially, like I said earlier, in food deserts, in areas that don't have convenience stores. They provide a lot of the fresh food that's there, or then only food some people can eat. And so those costs going up affect the people that least can afford it. Not the people that live in gated communities that teach at vaunted state colleges for an inordinate amount of money, who might have served in the Senate or the House. These are real people that nobody thinks about when they're sitting up there in Richmond half the time. I mean, They are easily discardable because they're not at their cocktail party. They wouldn't even let them in their cocktail party. I mean, this is the mindset. This is why they called it scuzzy. This is why he called the people that run those convenience stores, work their off. Alibaba. Give me a break. This is us. This is those that have against those that have not. And this is where you see the dividing line. What I've really seen is I've gotten call after call from House of Delegate members, like I said, senators. We got to do something about this. Because they just thought, they're used to me winning. They see me as a very successful attorney. I am. I represent a lot of them. And they know I was getting the job done. And so now they're like, well, I thought this was all... What are we going to do? Yeah. I thought this was all set. I thought we were okay. I thought we were moving into basically January 2024 with a new General Assembly session saying, all right, now let's legitimize these because the court case is done. Instead, it throws a lot of people into chaos. But I'm talking senators. I'm talking people high up, Hermie, and we won't go into those deep things, but the people that actually will be some of the most powerful legislators and the ones even surprising are saying, we've got to change.
This isn't right.
Yeah. This is not right. And they're hearing from their convenience store owners.
Don't forget,
you got the Asian.
Not only is our court case coming up, but elections coming up too.
Exactly. And that was, I've heard that the timing sucks from people that are up for re-election. And that they don't like the way that they've released this, and they don't like the way the Attorney General's office has handled this. We should have just gone to trial, but no, you got to wonder what's at work there. I mean, I'm speculating, but they don't like how it's being handled. These are legislators, but what you're seeing is like the Asian community, the Indian community, those people that own convenience stores, they have an alliance and association, a convenience store association globally, statewide. You've got the restaurant purveyors, you've got the small business purveyors. All of them are starting to rise up and say, wait a minute, this is not right. And they want change. And then you've got a lot of the public that says, wait a minute, this is not right. So what you're seeing is, and I'm seeing it every day since Friday, is a tidal wave of people waking up and saying, no, this isn't right. This ruling stinks. We need to change it. How do we change it? And they think we can just go press a button and change it tomorrow in the General Assembly, which we can't. But it needs to change. And maybe this will wake everybody up to what really is the issue here. The issue is not, the issue is simply this. We've opened up gambling and gaming in Virginia. I voted against it, didn't want it. But when you open up that gambling and gaming, then you ought to let small businesses in Virginia participate. That's just fundamentally fair. And that's the way it should be. Instead, we have sold our souls, in my opinion, to the out-of-state casino interest, and now we are reaping what we sow. And we will pay a price for that, and small businesses are the ones who are going to pay the worst price. I mean, for 2 years, we've had an injunction protecting these small business owners. 2 years. And now they say, well, turn them off, which demonstrates an ignorance of them. And then suddenly, Mr. Smith that owns a convenience store that has 3 Queen of Virginia games in it or 3 bona fide skill games from another manufacturer, you are now a criminal, because even if they turn it off, they're in possession under this crazy facactus law that was put into our budget, that the possession of the instrument is a felony.
Wow.
Not just the operation of it.
Bill, why was it only
ridiculous
set up where 3 justices heard this appeal? Why not the full Supreme Court?
Well, and I guess we could ask for a rehearing. But at this point in time, that's called an 8.01626 of the Virginia Code snap appeal. That if an injunction is granted, then you have a right to go to the Supreme Court and ask them for a review of that. They've already done this once when we first got our injunction, and the Supreme Court turned it back.
Right.
This time, and they did so within 30 days of the filing of the appeal. This time it kind of lingered, which made me wonder whether they were considering it. And what they're supposed to do is consider the whole record. Hermie, I don't know what record they consider it. And they made reference in the opinion that they handed down of the record we have in front of us. Well, what record is that? Is that just the pleadings? Do you have the trial transcript? Did those 3 justices actually sit down and read 7 hours of testimony, read hours and hours of depositions, look at every exhibit that we offered, look at the videotape and the videos that we presented, demonstrating what these games were and weren't?
You just don't know.
What record did they review to come to this conclusion? Because it really flies in the face of what I thought was a very well thought out ruling by the trial court at the circuit court level based on tons. And I mean, let me tell you, I have a room in my law firm that has notebook after notebook, big, wide, 4-inch notebooks full of evidence and testimony and exhibits and motions and briefs. In this case alone, it fills up bookshelves that go around in an L shape. That is the record I've got Do you think 3 justices looked through every page and document? I have to wonder. I don't know the answer to that, but I have to wonder, because what record was in front of them for them to come to this conclusion? I'm not going to look. I respect, and as Hermie says, I respect the process. I believe in the process. I've worked in that process for 30 years, and sometimes you lose cases. I've lost cases I felt like I shouldn't have lost. I've won cases I thought I should never have won. This was a case I knew we should have won, and now we have a reversal. I respect the process, but it doesn't end what we've done. It just redoubles our efforts. It girds me even more. I am ready to fight and win, even more so than behind. I told Herm this, I told one of our co-counsels this. We had been winning in where I thought we were taking some things for granted. I felt like we were going into the next court case in December wearing flip-flops, camo shorts, and a t-shirt. Now we need to wear a suit of armor. Now we need to fight iron with iron. And so I'm mad as hell, but I'm ready to go. And I respect whatever the court does. I may not agree with them, but I respect it. But that doesn't mean I have to take that as the answer. And that is not, repeat, not the final answer in this case. We have much more. And I think this trial is going to go even longer than the 2 days we've set it for. We have much more evidence to put on the record. We have much more things that we can win with, and we're going to win.
Does this case ever go federal because the casino's out of state? Does it ever get to a federal level?
No, because the casinos aren't a party. It's just Hermie.
It's just Hermie. Okay.
Hermie has taken the mantle up of all convenience stores. He represents not just him, but all convenience stores. Every owner that's out there, every restaurant owner, every bar that has a skill game in it, every small business owner that wants to actually be able to participate in an emerging marketplace without having the government dictate totally that they're picking winners and losers and choosing casinos over them. That's what he's fundamental fairness. I mean, there's so many issues here that he's fighting for that I think that's what makes it not only a just cause, but a right cause. And what concerns me is that there are a lot of people out there now that are in this confused state of, am I a criminal now? I've been doing everything right. I shut off the games when they passed the law in July, 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
I turned them back on only when the injunction was granted, and it was only these skill games that were registered that I had through ABC. Now am I a criminal? I mean, what the heck? And that is a real good question. I think that the Attorney General's office has to answer. And I think all the Commonwealth's attorneys' offices in the counties and the sheriff's offices in the counties and cities need to understand for themselves that ultimately they should not treat these people as criminals just because we've had a vacated injunction by the Supreme Court. They need to understand the intricacies of what's going on and do accordingly, because these are good people not doing bad things. They're doing the right thing.
There's in so many ways, Bill, we've already won. If you think about it.
Oh yeah.
We've won and exposed so many things.
Yes.
Perfect example. I know the General Assembly wrote a criminal code change and stuck it in the state budget, and that's what we're at odds with now, maybe with what the Supreme Court thinks versus what we think. But prior to that, we proved, and the Supreme Court in their ruling even acknowledged, that SB 971 is unconstitutional.
Yes.
They've already said.
They acknowledged we were right.
We were right.
Yep.
SB 971 is unconstitutional and should not have been enforced. The circuit court is right. If not for our lawsuit, SB 971 would have always, at least to this point, been the law of the land.
You're right.
An unconstitutional law would have been the law of the land, and if we hadn't challenged that. So right. Not only did we expose that, we also exposed some of the backdoor workings of how that was done, why it was done, and the negative impact that would have had on a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
That
I didn't think
the circuit court and the Supreme Court has said, Bill, Hermie, y'all were right. How can in 2023
but the backhanded backroom smoky room deal fixed it, at least to their mind at this point. Remember, this doesn't decide the case. This is just at the injunctive phase. And so they said, well, at least on its surface, it's not unconstitutional.
But what I'm saying is,
I feel like we're at a subway station right now.
But what I'm saying is,
people opening and closing the doors.
They acknowledged in their ruling, the Supreme Court of Virginia says Yeah, we had an unconstitutional law that was signed by Ralph Northam.
And if you hadn't challenged it, if you and I hadn't
would still
decided
be on
that
the
was
book.
right,
Be there.
and people would be being prosecuted.
So what are we talking
until it got
about?
challenged. We're talking about we're winners. That's what we're talking about. We're winners. No, you're right. No, and what we're talking about is that we keep the challenge going. And that's why I still think it's an unconstitutional law.
I guess to me, it goes back to
The new law.
I guess to me, the point I just made says even more about the lengths and the depths that some people, politicians, lobbyists, the governor's office at the time, how far they would go for them to win by signing. You and I both had concerns that the initial SB 971, before we even filed a lawsuit, was unconstitutional, had constitutional issues.
Right.
And so we proved that.
Yes.
And now, like to your point, they can, at 11:59 before 12 o'clock bell time, stick a criminal code change in the state budget that nobody can talk about, nobody can vote
debate.
on,
Right.
nobody can debate, nobody can, nothing.
Yeah.
And that fixes all this?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You know, and I stood up on when we voted about the amendments to this year's budget, and I abstained from it. And, you know, I stood up and said, I'm not voting for this because of the disgusting part of the budget that had that amendment that messed up our case. And how dare you do this? And I don't think I can vote for a budget that has that in there. So I abstained. And it's dirty. It's dirty pool. It shows, you know, and remember, who are the people that were driving the train? One on the House side, we don't even have to name, Janet Howell and Tommy Norman on the Senate side, who luckily are all retiring, forcefully or otherwise, and by their own volition or by force, and so they're the ones that made that decision that they were going to violate their own rules, which they told me when I came here 13 years ago in the General Assembly. We're not legislating through the budget, and we don't interfere with ongoing litigation. Well, they did both because they hated that you won and that they got caught with their pants down, messing around with Virginians' rights in an unconstitutional Senate Bill 971. So you're right.
And I'll say this,
and
too.
now we're going to show them that this budget, I mean, remember, we still got appeal on their violating the single object rule by sticking the criminal code in the budget.
That's what I wanted to bring up, the single object
Well,
rule.
before you get on that, I just want to
I
want to make sure I
we've
say
got
one
that on
thing.
appeal later, not now.
There are a lot of good, honest, quality people in the legislature in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
There are.
There are
Great
a
people.
few bad actors
Very few.
that are causing these problems for everyone.
You know what I learned during this first 50 minutes of this podcast?
What?
And Hermie, you may or may not picked up on this, but Bill actually thinks that's 4 inches when he was describing the thickness of the notebooks in his law office in his case. He actually thinks that's 4 inches. That explains a lot
I
to
used
me
your
right
hands
there.
to make that, didn't I? Yeah. Well, so what we got going forward is we still got our court case. We still got our lawsuit. We're still in a position with great and wonderful issues that I think are right. We are still on a path for victory. We do not have an injunction right now, but you know, injunctions are rare to get anyways. And I respectfully disagree with the Supreme Court. And remember, the likelihood of success in the merits is a high bar. I disagree with them respectfully on their belief that we're not going to win. That was the only issue. There are 4 factors in what we was talking to you about, the Winters test. Public policy, balance of the equities, and likelihood of success in the merits is one other thing. And then there's no other remedy that can be obtained through law. They didn't address any of those. They just went for likelihood of the success of the merits. They didn't go for public policy and the balance of the equities versus the
It just seems like a big
So
time.
we've got more to do, but we're not looking at the Winters test anymore for an injunction. We're looking at this law is proved to be unconstitutional.
It just seems like a big left-hand turn for the Supreme Court to say, Circuit Court, you were right in ruling the way you did on SB 971. And then turn around and say, you're so wrong on this new language that we're going to vacate the injunction you granted. It just seems it's a lot for them to pull.
A 180.
And again, it's 3 judges, not 7. It's not a majority of the court. And it's only with regard to one small issue, which is the injunction itself. The injunction is not the case. The injunction was to preserve the status quo because the case has merit. That's all they've done is remove by vacating the injunction. The case still has merit. I have all the confidence in the world, and believe me now, I'm fired up. And you've seen me in court when I get fired up.
Cheeks a little red today.
Well, I'm a little pissy, but pissy's good. As my wife says, don't piss me off. In politics or the law. Don't tell me I can't in the politics or law, because then I redouble my efforts.
So you're not going to quit?
Well, no, I'm not going to quit. Listen, there was a dirty word. There are a couple dirty words my parents taught me. The worst word in my family was can't. And it motivates me every day. I was a small man growing up. Bully, and I kept moving around because my dad was in the Navy. And bullies would take a look at me. I had big, blonde, friggin' poofy hair when I was a little kid. And you know what? They'd sit there and try to boss me around or bully me around. Sometimes like the dude in the J.C. Penney clothing that we've been talking about earlier. And he should have figured out by now, you're only pissing me off. And I'm only going to redouble my efforts. You say I can't, I say I can, and then I will. And there's a difference between being a lawyer and being a great lawyer. And he's finding that out too, as he leaves the Senate. And he'll find out pretty soon if he hasn't found out already. They mocked us, Shep. Huh, home cooking. You guys got that injunction. Home cooking in Greensville. There were nobody in that courtroom that knew Hermie Sadler except the clerk. The judge looked at everything fairly. Oh, well, you're going to lose. Oh, bad ruling. Well, we kept winning. And then the disturbing thing that I heard from the lobbyist from the casino side, and I don't know if this is true or not, was casino said, we got the Supreme Court. We got the Supreme Court. What the hell does that mean? Well, I think we found out a little bit what it means.
They've ruled
against us, but they haven't killed our case. They have not killed our case. And they have not killed my spirit or your spirit, Hermie, and our drive and a determination to make sure that fundamental fairness wins in Virginia, and that we're not going to be we're not going to be susceptible to outside influences like the casinos, who will then try to dictate, and they're already trying to dictate what is policy in the Commonwealth of Virginia. When I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. My dad used to lovingly say to me, what they want to say is, we know what's good for you. Don't take any other option except the ones we force feed you. That's not the way we live in the Commonwealth.
We got a long ways to go in this case, but just to put a bow on it, Bill, I'll say to you again that so far we have greatly enhanced the livelihood and opportunity for thousands of small businesses across the Commonwealth of Virginia.
And lives.
And number two, we, as evidence about a Supreme Court ruling, even though we don't like it in its entirety, they proved to us or confirmed the fact that we kept an unconstitutional law off the books and unenforceable in the Commonwealth of Virginia, which one should never be signed by a governor to start with.
Right.
Especially when all these politics are involved.
And we played by the rules.
Sure.
We have played by the rules. When they told you to shut down the skill games, you did.
Sure.
When the injunction was on, you turned them back on. And now you're going to respect the law, even though you believe the law is an ass, for now, until we get a permanent determination of the constitutionality of this law baked into the budget. And quite frankly, we're law abiding, and these are respectful business owners, not just you, Hermie, that are adversely affected by what has now become really a political issue. You've got the former minority leader. These games are parasitic. They have no good for the common man. Speaking out of his that's politics. All this fight and debate with the simple few that have determined the fate of many in Virginia when it came to skill games, in the back rooms that we never saw, all of them were not doing, in my opinion, what is best for the Commonwealth of Virginia. They were doing what is best for what they thought their special interests that dominated their minds was more important. And for that, that's the disgusting part of politics. as my son goes out for the third time with a new paper airplane to go fly it, and
I like the
slamming
way
the door.
There you go. I like the way they quietly sneak the door open
and then slam
it shut.
Rocket.
Bill, how did all this get past the single object rule?
Because I think the court, this is my opinion, I believe that the court felt that the First Amendment issue was so strong that the court didn't have to go peek, as the court said, peek behind the curtain to find out the motivations of the legislature to determine why they would put this in the budget. But I think it's a very viable argument that we still have.
Can you cliff note the meaning of the single object rule? Because some of the listeners may not know what that means.
That's a great point, Shep.
But just cliff note.
You're back. So the single object rule is a constitutional prohibition against governments passing bills like they do in the federal court. In Virginia, our Constitution prohibits you from having a bill that touches on more than one subject. So I can't have a bill about beer. So my bill's about beer, and then I put something in about childcare in the bill. That violates what's called the single object rule. In the budget has a single object.
And the budget is a law.
It is a law, but it's a
I understand, but
every 2 years. But the single object is appropriation. Here we go again. And 3, 2, 1. All right, not yet. There you go.
There it is.
So the single object rule basically says, if you look at the budget is a bill of appropriation.
He looks at you like, Dad, why are you here? Why
leave him. He knew my name. Leave him alone. He actually knew my name.
He even knew how to say it.
He did.
Shep Moss? He says it. And when you call me and he sees it on my phone, he says that out loud.
Well, you never answer.
And that's because usually I'm laughing at him. No, because I don't want to talk to him with him in the car, because I know the way you and I talk to each other on the phone. So the single object rule in the budget means it should be about appropriations, not about the criminal code. If we're writing criminal code in the budget, then why are we writing any other laws? Let's just write one big budget bill with all this stuff about housing, the criminal law, about civil liberties and rights. I mean, that's why the budget is the budget, and that's the single object is the budget.
So the single object rule is supposed to try to provide for transparency, debate, prevent the fat in the pork that goes into a lot of the federal government.
Well, they attach all these other bills onto an appropriations bill. We don't allow that in Virginia.
So Virginia's trying
that way
to
know what you're arguing. Everything's in front of you. It's transparent. The public sees it, and you're not hiding things like they did. This new budget language that changed the law of SB 971, which was unconstitutional, saw what we were winning and X'd it out and tried some new language, and that this Supreme Court has now said, it seems okay for us right now, was snuck in a budget, never properly debated. The public didn't get to have any input on it. We didn't have any hearings in committees. We didn't have any floor votes on it. That's what the single object rule tries to prevent, and it's a violation of that single object rule.
Did the circuit court judge dismiss that argument?
He granted demur on that, which was... So that's on appeal right now. But we're going to ask, one of the strategies is to think about asking him to reconsider it now that because he just, in my opinion, the court believed the First Amendment rules. Remember, the old adage is, the government doesn't dictate the terms of the First Amendment. The First Amendment dictates to the federal government.
Correct.
And so that is such a powerful thing in our Constitution. That's why the Founding Fathers made it the First Amendment. Not the Fifth Amendment, not the 15th, the first. Freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of, so many freedoms that I can't, freedom of religion and separation between church and state. The list goes on. They put those all in the first one. That's why it was so important. And I think that's what the court focused on. But we still have all these other elements of our court case, which are very strong. I think I could win on any single one of them. And I think we will. But now we've got to focus on those things as well. We're not giving up the First Amendment.
Yeah, because I took it when the judge was speaking. The judge didn't say the single object rule is not applicable. I took it to mean what he said. I'm just not going to peek behind that curtain right now, because it's not. The First Amendment is the issue that I think is really the issue that is of most importance in this case.
Correct. You're exactly right.
So he didn't say single object rule hadn't been violated. He just said, I don't want to, don't need to. And he used some term like, I don't think that these political games should be going on in the middle of the night. He made some comment about in the dark.
Yes.
We shouldn't be doing the people's work in the dark.
Correct.
But my major concern is the First Amendment. That's what, in my view, is the issue that's going to decide this case.
Yep. That's exactly right. And well said. You obviously have a very good memory and you comprehend exactly what's going on and what can be a complex legal argument. That's why we're here trying to break it down, make it simple. That
single object rule can potentially be brought,
can come back.
Is that correct?
Yeah. It can, well, he granted the demur. It's not a part of this, but we're going to make a motion to reconsider. And I think we're going to, and we've got it on appeal to higher court anyway, because we think it's right.
We've done repairs to our airplanes.
Yep.
And we're headed back out the door. And 3, 2. Wow, easier that time.
Hey, maybe they listen.
Well, the wind didn't catch it.
Them boys are having a good time. I got my son Chandler here and his friend Philip, and they're making paper airplanes in a nice windy day. So
they must have some kind of competition going on there. Going in the back room back here. And
if you look at Phillips right now, I think there's not
going to fly.
There's not a lot of input there.
I wouldn't want to fly on that airplane.
Just balled it up and throw
it becomes a piece of paper.
So, Bill, this is the position you find yourself in, and I'm going to try to give you some friendly advice.
Thanks, I need it.
You already
so earlier today, you broke him down. Now you're going to try to build him back up.
It's Humpty Dumpty. Look, you've already f***ed up and ruined porn for everybody in Virginia.
Thanks for
now. Don't f*** it up again and lose the skill games for everybody in Virginia too. That's a lot of pressure on you.
Now, the porn ban to prevent children from accessing porn is a win,
but that's not the way everybody looks at it.
I understand.
Everybody's buying burner phones.
99%.
They're buying burner phones from Carolina Walmarts.
I see you brought in 3.
I did.
But this is a very important issue for small business. This is also setting the table and putting the boundaries around casinos. And we've said it before. It's like letting a bear, the bear's in your yard and you think you're going to placate the bear like by letting it come in and eat the stuff out of your cabinet.
It ain't going to happen.
Well, pretty soon you're making the bear eggs. I mean, you're never going to satiate the bear's appetite. The bear's going to run and dictate you. Here's what's happening with this industry that we let in. And this is a struggle and a debate that a lot of states are now having. North Carolina's having this. We started out with scratchers, but we're allowing gambling, but it's not really gambling because we're going to put all this money that we make from the scratch tickets and the lottery to the schools. Well, then pretty soon we need that money and the schools aren't getting the money they're supposed to be getting. So what we did was we lied to people.
And it doesn't matter what the call. It doesn't matter what the benefit of the money is. It's the process. It's the gambling.
Right.
The gambling ain't changed. Right. Whether it's going to a church or to the school or in your pocket, the process is still the same.
And in Virginia, it went like this. It was scratchers. We're only going to do scratchers. We're against gambling. Kill bills all the times for casinos. Then it was like sports betting through fantasy football. That you could get in a fantasy football league with DraftKings or whatever it was called, and you could bet and win money on that. And that was okay. Well, that now in politics, they say that's the camel's nose under the tent. Pretty soon he's in the tent. Well, guess what came next? Sportsbook. Sports betting. Used to be bookies. Highly illegal. Underground. Well, you know what? Let's legitimize that. And guess who's coming in and doing it? The casinos. MGM Resorts. All those guys. DraftKings. All these. And so they started doing the sportsbook. Then guess what? Well, you know what? Sportsbook isn't good enough. We need to allow casinos. And then when the casinos fought for it and got in, now we've really opened the door to gaming. And then all of a sudden when the casinos come in, they go, hey, and by the way,
ain't going to be no games.
And the small business owner in Virginia can't participate. Only us. Because remember, the small business owner did not participate in fantasy football or bookmaking. Okay? Small business owner is not going to be able to create a casino because of the way the law is written. But the one region where the local small business, restaurant, bar, truck stop, convenience store can't participate in an industry that we've now let and created in Virginia is through skill games. And you can allow charities to do charitable gaming.
Bingo.
So that they can win. Yeah, but now the casinos don't want bingo.
Oh, wow.
They don't want the VFWs to have, absolutely. They are against. If you asked them, if we put a law in that says VFWs, Veterans of Foreign Wars, posts can't have bingo, they'd be 100% behind it. They've tried. They're against everything that is not in their control, in my opinion. And therefore, when they control it all, they keep it small, control it all. And what they're going to do is if we can get rid of skill games, because they've been doing this They've been allowing Virginia by their lobbying to miss out on $250 million, $250 million
every year
while this injunction is in place because they want to eliminate it. And then when they eliminate it, they'll come back to the General Assembly and go, you know what? Our revenue's going down a little bit. Let's put in some skill games, but they'll control it. We'll put them into the small business, but they'll control it. Look at what the revenues are doing right now, like in Danville. Look at what they're doing in Bristol in the casinos. They're going down. 2 straight months, Danville Casino's going down. All right? Because the appeal's worn off.
The honeymoon.
Yeah. So now they got to go, well, how are we going to make more money?
Now what are we going to do?
Because what they're saying to Virginia is we're investing $100 million by building this big hotel and this big casino. That's how we're investing our money in Virginia, because then we build the building we make money out of. So what are they doing for small communities? What are they doing for that small business owner?
They're raping
Absolutely
them.
Zero.
They're raping them.
So they're going to have to control it all. Monopolies. We've talked about this enough, and we've got all these podcasts that you can go back and listen to. We have a huge library. We interview stars of wrestling, stars of motorsports, political figures such as our lieutenant governor and other figures like that. And we talk about this a lot. But we constantly say that the casino has a monopoly and will not loosen the grip on it. And they could care 2 shits about Virginians. They could care 2 shits about tight squeeze Virginia or Manita. They could give a damn. What they care about is getting that money, enticing them people in, and sending it back out of the state.
You know, somebody made this comment.
And remember, their modus operandi is the house always wins.
You know, this is not exactly the same as our case, but it's certainly David versus Goliath. Our whole case has been that way. I've viewed it that way.
Still is.
Somebody made a comment to me, and our case is different because we're talking about games of skill that if you're skillful enough, you can win every single time. We proved that in court. There's a representative from ABC that wrote a letter to that effect that now I think works in the Attorney General's office.
Yeah.
All that. But somebody made a comment to me on the street the other day, because now with this ruling that's come out with the Supreme Court, there's a whole nother wave of people coming out saying, why is the government trying to tell everybody what to do on this issue? Why can't I spend my money where I want? And this person made this comment to me. Again, it's not totally relevant, but he says, you know, when you go to Las Vegas, they got Wynn's and they got the Bellagio and the Mirage and all that. But when you ride out of town, they got these little small places in strip malls where you can also go spend your money.
Even in the airport, you can gamble.
Okay. So people can still choose. And Virginia is trying to take that right away.
Yeah.
And doesn't look like they're going to give up until they get that.
Nope. And they're not. And, but our fight continues.
Yeah.
I mean, I've redoubled my efforts. I've cleared my schedule.
God, I hope so.
I'm rocking. This is where these things can be my finest hour and will be my finest hour. I'm not intimidated. And I got a lot of 4-inch notebooks that are this big that are coming with me. In fact, before we got into this camping trip, we left yesterday for South Boston, my wife and I, she started hauling in these boxes after boxes, and we filled up my car, because as soon as we land tonight, when I leave tomorrow morning and head to Richmond,
be serious.
I'm going to eat, drink, and sleep. Probably still smoke. Hermie Sadler's Sadler Brother Oil's case. And so that's why we fight. That's why we started this thing. You know, we knew we were going to win the injunction. We may not have anticipated what 3 justices determined for the time being, but we still have all the confidence in the world that we've got a great case and we're going to win it. Just as I'm confident that this door is going to slam in about 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1.
Now he's looking at us. Chandler's like,
slam the damn door, will you? Come on now. He closed it like he was holding a butterfly.
He heard you.
I guess I was wrong on that, but I'm not wrong on this. We're going to win. And I am super motivated, and I've got the jet fuel needed in my tank to win this case. So
what is the hand signals, Shep? What are you trying to say?
He said race.
We may want to talk racing for a few minutes.
Well, we got to get out there. Practice starts here in 9-10 minutes.
Yeah, I want to get inside for practice. So
we're either going to take a break or this is the end of this show. So we're going to figure out after practice but we're either going to be back or thanks for listening. What are we doing?
I'm not in charge. We got to be more topic oriented, but and you and Shep can work that out, but I do want to go inside to watch our teams practice.
Okay. So let's
take a break.
Let's take a break here, and then we'll come back.
Let's thank some sponsors.
But we always have to thank sponsors like Sadler Stanley Racing. You can always visit us at sadlerstanleyracing.com. You can go to our podcast.
So here's when he's
Facebook page.
It's going to keep me from getting inside by lingering, but this is important for me to be
right,
inside.
Turning the left is, we've got our own Facebook page, but we also have our own website. So go and catch everything you want. And Hermie's going to be the last one to slam the door before we say goodbye. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back. I'm Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley, and I'm leaning right. Shep, you're going to have to pick it up because he's quitting on us. He's now quitting.
And I'm Shep Moss, and I'm carrying your bags, Bill. How about that?
We'll be right back.
Hi, folks. This is Hermie Sadler. Thanks for listening to our all-new podcast, Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator. I hope you are enjoying the show as much as Senator Stanley and I enjoy bringing it to you. Whether you're a family traveling together or a truck driver hauling freight up and down the highway, I hope you will take the time to visit one of our Sadler Travel Plaza locations in Virginia and North Carolina. Sadler Travel Plaza locations are licensed dealer locations for Pilot Travel Centers. And we also carry Shell Motiva petroleum products for our four-wheel friends. We pride ourselves on providing one-stop shopping for service, food, and entertainment. Our food options include Five Guys Burgers and Fries, Quiznos, Dairy Queen, Hermie Sadler's Faux Show Bar and Grill, Victory Lane Restaurant, Hunt Brothers Pizza, Dunkin' Donuts, and much, much more. Our locations include Sadler Travel Plaza in South Hill, located off I-85 at exit 12. The Sadler Travel Plaza of Emporia, which is conveniently located on exit 11B off I-95, and Sadler Travel Plaza on Highway 58 in Suffolk. We also have our North Carolina location, Sadler Travel Plaza in Dunn, North Carolina. That's exit 75 off I-95. We appreciate all of our customers, and Bill and I appreciate you listening to Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pace-O-Matic.
Hey, this is Bill Stanley, Hermie Sadler's sidekick on this podcast. When I'm not in Richmond at the Capitol or doing this podcast, my real job for the past 27 years is as a trial attorney with the Stanley Law Group. Here at the Stanley Law Group, we represent our clients in every courthouse in the Commonwealth. No problem is too small for us to solve. No case is too big for us to win. Whether it's criminal charges, traffic offenses, civil disputes, litigation matters of any sort, we handle it all. We make sure that we treat every client like family because they are to us. Your problem is our problem. Your success is our success because we hate to lose more than we love to win. And believe me, we win a lot. Don't believe me? Go ask Hermie. I'm his favorite lawyer, and he hates lawyers. So give us a call at 540-721-6028 and let us help you. Or visit our website at www.vastanleylawgroup.com. That's www.vastanleylawgroup.com. At the Stanley Law Group, we'll make sure we're the lawyers that you swear by and not at. And we're back. I'm Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley, still leaning right.
And I'm Hermie Sadler, still turning left, leaning right and turning left with Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pace-O-Matic.
Hermie, we're back. It's now Wednesday. If you listen to the first part of this podcast.
From Sunday to Wednesday.
Correct. We have moved forward in time like we were in a time machine. We're now in Richmond. We were in the earlier part of this podcast, this episode, we were in South Boston, Virginia.
Right.
Getting ready for a race.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about our court case, what happened in the Supreme Court of Virginia.
Right.
I think that was a really good discussion. And hopefully all of the operators who are listening to this podcast, many of them do. And then I was on a conference call with them yesterday. I think even many more going to listen. This is their source of information of the Skill Games saga and drama here in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Saga and drama is a good way to explain it.
It's turning into that. And so we're here today in Richmond. Post-race, we're going to talk about the race a little bit, what happened, and the ups and downs of that race. It was a great race. And then we're going to just talk about what we're doing today.
Yep.
The legal team, and I'll start off with that. The legal team in the Skill Games lawsuit, Sadler versus the Commonwealth. We're all gathering here today. We're sitting down and we're digging deep into the court case. We've got so many issues that are in our amended complaint, and we're going to be hitting on those as well as continuing to hit on the First Amendment free speech prong of our argument. And so I think we're in pretty good shape. I did a lot of work yesterday before I saw you here this morning, and I'm feeling pretty good about where we are.
One thing I will say is, and I said this Sunday while we were taping in South Boston, but ever since the Supreme Court came down with this decision, I mean, my phone has lit up with operators. And I'll give you an example, not just skill game operators and small businesses that are affected by this. I was at my office yesterday. In fact, I had just walked out of my office to go to lunch, and I saw a gentleman that I know that was riding down Main Street. He owns a automotive repair shop. And I've known this guy a long time. Doesn't have anything to do with skill games. He does not. He circles back around and comes up to my truck as I'm getting in my truck to go to lunch. He said, "What's going on?" I said, we chit-chatted, small talk for a minute. He said, "I saw you on the news last night." You know, I did a interview Monday with Channel 8 News. And apparently it aired on TV Monday night on the Channel 8 News. And he said, "Man, I just cannot believe what the Supreme Court has done." And I said, "Yeah, you know, we're surprised, we're shocked, you know, we felt like, you know, we were getting prepared to go to trial in December, which we still are. That doesn't change." I said, "But we were all kind of caught off guard and surprised that the Supreme Court, without even really having the whole record of what we proved at the injunction hearing, you know, maybe in front of them." So we talked back and forth about that. And he said, "You know what? You know," he says, "I don't operate skill games and I'm not a fan of gaming and this and that and the other." And he said, "But what they're doing to you and y'all in this case, if y'all just let this go, what's next? Mm-hmm. What can they do next?" And he made the example, you know, we have Shep, you know, usually, you know, Shep Moss is with us. He was with us Sunday. Shep Moss. You know, he works for Brandon Boyd. Nice guy. Yeah. Great company. But this guy yesterday made the analogy to me. He said, "What if, like, the Boyds here in Emporia, who are the, you know, in the big scheme of things, they're the big boys in Emporia as it relates to car sales and automotive repair and all that." He says, "What if they had gotten some type of a license or got something done in the Commonwealth of Virginia to be the only people in Emporia that can do state inspections on cars? That just puts me out of business." And I said, that's really what I've been fighting for 3 years. It's yes, the constitutional rights of small businesses, all those things we talk about all the time, but the government in this case, take the law aside, the government in this case is deciding who gets the business and who doesn't. Exactly and this guy, I mean, ended up being a 45-minute conversation. He said, "I just want to thank you." He said, "I know they're putting you through the ringer," meaning me, us, the trial. I said, "Yeah, I mean, they're powerful, they're strong, they got plenty of money. It's almost like a game to them. You know, they're going to keep on appealing, keep on rolling, you know, trying to wear us out. I know what they're trying to do." But he said, "I just wanted to stop by and tell you that even though I'm not in the convenience store business, I'm not in the truck stop business, I'm not in the restaurant business, I don't own, operate, or play skill games, but I can see as a small business owner in a completely different industry how if the government is just allowed to be lobbied or paid off or influenced to decide and tell people where to go or where they have to go to spend their money, they can do this to you now, but tomorrow it's going to be me."
Exactly. And, you know, that goes without saying. This lawsuit's not just about skill games and small businesses and government overreach and the casinos monopolizing and trying to take up all the air in the room here in the Commonwealth of Virginia when it comes to gaming. We've said it before. You know, when the casinos come in here, if they're successful removing skill games from small businesses, then suddenly when their monies are going down, as we're seeing that trend now, they'll say, "You know what we need? We need Virginia for you to allow us to put our own skill games back in small business, and then they control it all. Keep it small, control it all. I've said it before. That's their plan. That's their play. And in that play, they have not cared about the Commonwealth of Virginia, in my opinion, because they've allowed almost $750 million in tax revenues that we could have collected to be put in the coffers that could help Virginians, everyday Virginians, in their lives, where we could do something good, with the government doing something for people. Instead, we've got this dance where the government and the casinos are forgetting about the little guy in the businesses, but also what that money could do for Virginians.
And one of the craziest things is with the signing of this original SB 971, which is designed solely to give a monopoly to the out-of-state special interests of casinos and Rosie's and all these other things. In doing that, they took away oversight from ABC. That allowed all the illegal operators to come in and infiltrate the Commonwealth of Virginia. They did that, and now they take that and try to confuse and convolute the issue with people that are not educated or don't understand. They say, look, all these games of chance that are in all these vape shops and back rooms and no oversight, no tax, no regulation, it's Hermie is responsible for all that. Right. And it could not be further from the truth.
Exactly. In fact, the bona fide skill games, we've said it before, shut down legally when they were told to by SB 971, didn't turn back on until we got our injunction in December, nearly 2 years ago. Only those were the legitimate games. The proliferation of the illegal games they've allowed to happen because they want to conflate the two. Now everything's a skill game. Everything's a gray machine. And that's how they then put the black hat back on us after what we've done is methodically and within the bounds of the law, try to protect small businesses and make that delineation between what is a bona fide skill game and what is still an illegal game. Those games that you're talking about in the vape shops and the back rooms were illegal to begin with. Were illegal under the law because they're games of chance, and that's what the law says that's been there. Games of skill are not games of chance, and they should have been taken out, but there was no enforcement, and that's Virginia's problem.
Right.
And it's Virginia's problem that
they took that away, not us.
Correct. And it's Virginia's problem that we didn't put a tax and regulatory and a clear delineation between what's legal and illegal in these games, and that's our problem. But we've allowed it because of the influences, in my opinion, of the casinos with people in the legislature and to get us to this point. And so this is why we continue to fight. So today we're putting together a great court case. We feel very confident about where we are. It really has awakened the slumbering giant, as I said before. I was on this call with operators who were mad, who were scared, who had been operating lawfully within the bounds of the law. They were worried about, does this decision make me a criminal overnight because I'm in possession of a machine that they're saying is not allowed, or at least they vacated the injunction. I was able to convince them, though, that you're not a criminal. You're actually the good small business person that has just wanted to be a part of this new gaming industry that we in the General Assembly allowed to happen. And what we then were able to do was have a very good conversation with the Attorney General's office, who is not only representing Virginia, but also is a party to this litigation that you're involved in. And they sent out a letter through one of the best attorneys I've ever met, Chuck Slump, that said, let's give this 30 days to enforce. That way. It takes time to turn these games off. We talked about that in the earlier segment. And so now we have, at least in place from the Attorney General's office, a recommendation to Commonwealth attorneys to allow this to occur and to make sure that we're not penalizing good business owners in the Commonwealth of Virginia who are trying to do the right thing.
Because, correct me if I'm wrong, if we're now going back to the skill game ban budget language being what is potentially able to be enforced by Commonwealth attorneys, it's not just the offering to play of skill games that makes you a criminal, it's the possession of the game.
Whether it's on or off.
Doesn't
discern.
And so that's what I explained. Channel 8 here in Richmond called me for an interview the other day, and the girl who's interviewing me says, hey, we first got a letter from a press release, and we talked about it some the other day.
Right.
Some unflattering comments by some members of the General Assembly that I won't go back into, but says we first got some correspondence from the Attorney General's office that made it sound like it would be enforced right now, and you could get in trouble right now.
Right.
And then a couple of days later, a letter comes out, and there's a 30-day period, and that's what I explained to the lady interviewing me. It says, the way, if you're not careful, somebody, a Commonwealth's attorney in one of these localities that may have an agenda, or maybe has a tie to an area with casinos, that wants to make a statement or make an example out of somebody, could go in, first thing Saturday morning at 8:00 and say, the Supreme Court rule come down on Friday, take the SWAT team out Saturday morning and say, hey, look, these people are crooks and criminals. They're operating these games in this bar and tavern or this small business. And again, the it's not just the operation or the offering of play. You're not supposed to be in possession of such item,
right,
if you want to get technical. So I appreciate, look, I don't agree with the Supreme Court's ruling, but I respect the process.
Sure.
And I'm going to abide by the law. And, so I appreciate the Attorney General's office, who I'm battling in this lawsuit, but at least they're doing the right thing in this case by allowing people to comply in a way that will prevent them from, this has already been devastating enough, but they could be popped with a $25,000 per machine fine.
And a felony. If there's not some kind of common sense used in the shutdown of these games. Well, and I think with the orderly shutdown of the bona fide skill games, the ones that were covered by the injunction, which we have to do, the order was vacated. We still have trial. We still have all our guns, all our ammo. We're ready to fire. I'm saying that figuratively, not literally. We all have that in place. But then I think you also get to see who are the legit players in the gaming market and who are the illegitimate, because the illegitimate ones that turned on when SB 971 went on and proliferated throughout Virginia and still do to this day are not going to heed this injunction, or they're going to say it doesn't apply to them. It only applies to us. You'll be able to see and discern between the good guys and the bad guys as this process plays through. But we're very confident that we've got a great case. We've got a lot of issues, as we talked about earlier in the earlier segment. I think, going forward, that's why we're here. We're here. I'm here all week to try to put this together very tightly, not just for you, Herm, and, it's not just our friendship and that you're my client, but it's for all of these legitimate business owners who have been playing by the rules that are now wondering what the heck's going to happen next. And, even last night, I went out to dinner with a couple lobbyists, 3 lobbyists that I usually hang out with that are really nice guys. They don't influence me. Usually we give each other crap. Of course, they gave me crap for losing because, I'm not somebody that's used to losing. I don't lose a lot. And they've seen, how we've won in this court case. Even one of them represents casino interest. They were shocked with the ruling themselves. They were surprised. Now, after giving me crap, they really did kind of, let me know that everybody in the community, as we call this around the General Assembly, the chattering class, which is the lobbyists, the legislators, and whatnot, everybody's been talking about it. Everybody's shocked and surprised. And suddenly everybody realizes, wait a minute, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. Maybe this isn't where we should be going. Maybe we should sit down once and for all, tax and regulate, and allow these small businesses to be there. So this may have the opposite of the intended effect, which would be the casino interests who want us all shut down, would love this ruling. They want this. They're even telling people that it's a permanent ruling, that suddenly our case is over, and which it's not. And so, what they may find is that with the citizenry, the grassroots rising up and saying, wait a minute, I may not play it, but that's my convenience store. And he or she needs that, who owns the convenience store, to keep operating so I can go in there and get the stuff that I need. A lot of these convenience stores are in food deserts, like we talked about in the earlier segment. They depend on this revenue to stay open in these areas where they don't have grocery stores. That's what a food desert is. Because and they provide fresh food. And a lot of these are doing that in areas where there's no grocery store and the people need it. So the domino effect of what the Supreme Court ruling, and remember, it's only 3 out of 7 that ruled, not the full entire panel, is, I think, going to assist us as we move to the General Assembly session of both the legislators that are sitting and being reelected and the new ones coming of, wait a minute, we need to finally find an answer that allow these games to thrive, to find them in a way that we know the difference between a legal game and an illegal game, and that we're helping the small business owner in those convenience stores, truck stops, bars, and restaurants who are our lifeblood in our communities and who needs them. And even if you don't like them, even if you're the that calls them insidious, then you still understand and respect why they're there, and the same reason why you allowed casinos in. And I'll tell you this, those lobbyists were shocked by that comment from that outgoing legislator in the Richmond Times. It was below my quote. And they were wondering, what the hell does he have to do with this anymore? He's on his way out. And I said, my thoughts exactly what I talked about in the earlier segment. So what I'm seeing is that there's a lot of alignment behind us, and a lot of people out there are suddenly waking up and saying, this is something we need to take care of in a positive way.
This, unfortunately, small business owners and their families and their employees is basically just collateral damage in a lot of ways, because this is about power, control, and money from the casinos and the out-of-state special interest. Why else this outgoing legislator we keep talking about, why else would he gloat about taking the revenue and business from small businesses, even in the district that he has represented for all these years? He's gloating about somebody maybe losing a job, maybe losing a business, all that, because the power, the control. And I'll tell you something else, and I hadn't even mentioned this to you prior.
Looking down on the little guy.
Let me tell you something. Rosie's opened up in Emporia, my hometown, on September the 25th. And so yesterday I went back and reviewed some of my reports on our legally operated skill games, because we have a convenience store right beside Rosie's and a truck stop about a half a mile from Rosie's. Guess what Rosie's opening up in their grand opening and all the stuff, the amount of play in my games in my convenience store, my truck stop, is down probably 25%.
Really?
But guess what? I don't want Rosie's to shut down. I just want Rosie's to play on a level playing field like me and everybody else, so that we all have equal opportunity. So take it for what it's worth, but I just think that the free market system and capitalism, everybody should have the same opportunities and let the people decide. But unfortunately, people are not letting that happen.
Wow, you're so fair. I mean, if we could all think that way, Herm, like you do, we wouldn't even have an issue right now. If we could all learn to live together and work together in this, again, I say it 100 times, emerging marketplace that was created by the General Assembly. I was against, you were against. No, we didn't need gambling in Virginia, in my mind, that it would create a whole host of problems, which we're seeing that gambling in the areas around these casinos have had a rise in crime, a rise in vices. You're bringing in something that people are addicted to. I mean, all of that can be, kind of shown very easily in what has happened since we've allowed casinos on board. But, I also was talking to a lobbyist who represents one of the big ones out west, who's not involved in the casino marketplace here in Virginia, who has made it very clear. They said, the skill game player is not our clientele.
Yeah.
And you know what? You ought to let them live and let live. And this is a large casino. You would recognize their name. They advertise on TV and sports betting, and they have got the right idea. And they sit in the midst of Las Vegas with all those tiny little casinos around them, and they live just as fine. And their money is their money, that they generate. But it seems like a fundamental unfairness is afoot with the people that are involved, even the local Virginians who are involved, in my opinion, in the casino industries. And that has caused this problem. And here we are 2 years later with no tax revenue that we could have had, no solution that we should have had. And we're attacking really, and we're hurting the very backbone of Virginia that we depend on so much, the small business owner.
And the people in Emporia, local government officials, have gotten where they won't come talk to me anymore about it, because I tell them the truth. For instance, I was in a meeting a couple weeks ago with a member of city council and another small business owner in town, and they all want to go around and say, hey, isn't it great that we've got Rosie's here in Emporia? and people think it's just me because of my ongoing lawsuit that, is not crazy about their parent company and their business practices. But, they brought up about, supporting Rosie's. We're like, we just wish they would be on the same, playing field as us. And then this person on city council says, but listen, they're estimated to generate about $700,000 of tax revenue here in the city of Emporia in the next year. And that'll help us build our school. So I said, that's, they will generate money to build a school. That makes what they do okay. I says, but let me tell you the fine print of what you're not going to tell everybody. The word that you forgot to put in your little speech about the tax revenue generated by Rosie's is additional. They're not going to generate $700,000 additional dollars.
Right.
Because when somebody goes to Rosie's and puts money in a machine or eats at their bar or restaurant, that's money that they're not going to spend at not only Faux Show or My Truck Stop Restaurant, but Cracker Barrel or the Bank Restaurant or Logan's Diner. That these people are spending their money somewhere else, not addition to what they would normally spend.
Yeah, so the same pot of money now, it's just
same pot of money, just spread thinner. And so, same way with the jobs. Well, Rosie's is going to create 100 jobs. No, Rosie's is going to relocate 75 of those 100 jobs. And because they've got a different playing field to play on, they can go pick the cream of the crop employees from other places because the government has given them a golden ticket.
Yeah.
You've got a monopoly. You've got a better playing field. You've got a sweetheart tax deal. You've got all these things. And so, but, when this guy came from, who's a friend of mine, he says, Hermie, you need to start telling everybody how good Rosie's is for the area. I mean, we're talking about trying to build a school. I'm like, but you don't understand because what I'm fighting don't affect you. You're in a different line of work, government supported, all that. You're not fighting your guts out every day for your business. And so, when somebody goes somewhere else to spend money that they would be spending in somebody else's business, in part because the government has told them that's where they want them to go, I just don't understand why people wouldn't want just the free market system to work. And that is the biggest thing, Bill, as I've told you 100 times, what angered me about this thing before, when I started talking to you, before we even talked about the law and the First Amendment and all these other potential issues. It's like, ethically speaking, how can the government do this? Yeah. And because they're continuing to do it and gloating about it.
They're the government, and that's where we are. And so, like I said, we're going to prepare up here for the next couple of days. We got your deposition coming up as we hurtle towards the last motions day in November, and then the trial December 10th. So stay tuned. Especially not just the operators and owners of these small businesses that listen to our podcast, but you as a Virginian, you as an American, this should be your fight. This is why you should be interested, because if they can do this on the smaller level, as Hermie just said, they can do it on any issue and any right that you have. And if you don't push back now and join the fight to push back government overreach and to push back large corporation monopolistic behavior, then once they get away with it once, it's like your kid. If your kid gets away with something the first time and you don't correct them and you don't fight back and make sure they don't do it again, they're going to do it again. So, I'm just glad to be in the fight with you, brother. And certainly from here, we're going to, I think, on to victory.
Last thing I'll say, and we'll move on, talk about some racing before we wrap up today. Everybody that's called me since the Supreme Court ruling, they said, what can I do?
Yeah.
Really all anybody can do is call your local city officials, call your delegate, call your state senator, and tell them what you think about it. Yeah. Because there's an election coming up.
Yes.
And no offense to you as a politician, but
here it comes.
Some of them only tend to listen, or I'll say listen to constituents more when election time comes around.
It does make a difference. It does. I've had, even on the dog issues, I've had people walk down to my office and say, make them stop. I'll vote for your bill. It does move the needle. Don't think you're one person that can't make a difference. One person turns into 10 people, turns into 100 people, turns into 1,000 very quickly.
And I think it goes back to your point of we kind of poked the bear and awoke a sleeping giant, because all these small business owners were kind of waiting for our trial in December, because we have put so much time and effort and money into not only saying what we believe, but proving what we believe to be true in a court of law. And then when the Supreme Court kind of comes in, in the bottom of the ninth and, makes a ruling like this, people started to stand up again and remember how mad they were when this when this law was first signed.
Right. It
was an outrage because businesses and people have rights.
Yeah.
And they're kind of being trampled on. So, as you said, an unintended consequence of the timing of the Supreme Court ruling and the fact that the AG's office appealed to them in the beginning could backfire on them in a way that they've reminded all of these business owners across Virginia how unfair we believe that this push for the casinos to have a monopoly really is, and how many laws and rights that it violates.
So it's a human face on the whole issue. And I think it kind of separates the wheat from the chaff when we're talking about large monopolistic business interests from out of state and the guy down the street that, that has that convenience store that you pump your gas at. And I think, I've heard from politicians say, terrible timing, terrible. Okay. But maybe you should have been thinking about this beforehand too. I hate that you're only now thinking about it, but I like how you're thinking. So I have great hope in my fellow legislators when we get back in 2024 that we'll put a final resolution in place that will be fair to these small business owners that we're fighting for. So in the same way that we were fighting for those small business, we were fighting for a championship.
I will say this. One more thing. Not going to call a name
yet. I had a great transition.
Not going to call a name, but I got a very interesting phone call from one of the most powerful legislators in Virginia over the last weekend, that I would not have thought would have reached out to me, that is concerned about the effect of this Supreme Court ruling. And I think understanding what's right and wanting to maybe jump to our side of the fence to help get something done in the name of fairness. And so,
and I know that legislator, and that legislator is good to that legislator's word.
Yeah.
And does not mess around and wasn't just, pulling your putt on this one. I think there's some,
and I only say that
behind that
to say that I do think people, because of the Supreme Court ruling and the timing of it, more people are paying attention now than they were 2 weeks ago.
Correct.
And that's a good thing.
Yep. And like I said, my greater transition, I'll do this. We went to South Boston. I'll tell you this, coming home, we went home Sunday night. The race went till about 6:00.
Yeah.
I had to get back in the RV, and you like to tease me about the white knuckle effort. Going there, I'm getting more comfortable with the RV, but let me tell you, I've never driven in at night down 2-lane roads, 2-lane roads, in the backwoods, getting back to my farm, getting back to my law firm to put the RV up. And I had never had such a scary experience in my life, driving a big old lumbering RV with what I did not anticipate but should have known, which is it's October and the deer, including the big old bucks, are running around trying to find a date.
Yeah.
And I saw more deer that I wanted to shoot than I wanted to hit with my RV. And so by the time I got back to the Stanley Law Group mothership, there were parked the RV, I was just exhausted, and so was my wife. Was very encouraging.
You're supposed to enjoy driving your RV.
Well,
don't see all those commercials.
Not at 9 o'clock at night.
Don't see all those commercials, Bill, with the RVing and people up in the mountains, and everybody's happy and laughing and
$5 for
joking
that. No.
and driving up through the winding road. Look, you live in a beautiful part of Virginia.
I do.
Enjoy it.
I tried.
Take a deep breath.
I was not breathing at all, really, and I was hunched over that wheel, and I was white knuckling it.
And I can hear Laura, Bill, get over.
She's dear. And they were, and then when I drove back in the car, I saw these dead deer on the side of the road, and I was like, that could have been me. But luckily, through my careful driving, we were able to get home safe with the kids, and we really enjoyed the race. And that race really was that Smart Series race at South Boston, second visit to South Boston, which is one of the greatest, most historic short tracks in all of Virginia, all of the East Coast, all of the world, where NASCAR got its start, was one of the most incredible races to watch. Let's talk about it. What'd you think? Give the audience exactly.
Well, the first
what
thing we got to remember, the race was supposed to be on Saturday. Mother Nature has been playing havoc with the Smart Modified Tour this year.
She's undefeated.
So, for the race to be moved to Sunday, which is, it's a tough day to compete because you got NFL football, you got the NASCAR races on TV.
You got church.
You've got the World Series going on.
Right.
You got all these things. But so I'm thankful, number one, that the Smart Modified Tour realized the importance as we get closer to trying to crown a champion that we needed to get this race in. And so they moved it to Sunday. The teams obliged and worked it out. And it was a great race. As far as our two cars,
we were on the cusp of getting in the final three.
Yeah, we had an opportunity to get Bobby Labonte into the Smart 3 on the Drivers' Championship side, and our 39 car in the Smart 3 on the Owners' Championship side. And so we'll talk about Bobby first. Bobby qualified fourth. The car that we were racing for the third spot qualified third, but we got bit right off the bat with the redraw because Bobby redrew 7, and the car that we were racing for the last spot in the final 3 redrew first. And so, and you get an extra point for leading a lap, and then there's a point benefit for leading the most laps, and there's points benefits for the where you run in the 30 lap stage. So even though we qualified right beside the car we wanted to keep an eye on, he was way up there and Bobby was way back there.
That was our first snake bite.
We
had another couple, didn't we?
Well, Bobby, spun one time, racing hard.
Yep.
We both.
He was in the top 3, I think, at that point in time.
Yeah, we were. We talked before the race because I was somewhat confused, as was Bobby, on how the points worked. So we went and got some clarification on what are the different opportunities that we can earn points during the course of the day. So Bobby, in the last 4 or 5 laps before the 30 lap stage, was battling Burt Myers tooth and nail,
right,
trying to get up there and get 1 point.
And Burt's at number 1, and probably the championship is really assured. All he has to do is start and finish the race. It doesn't matter really where he is because of the point difference. So,
well, I think the Smart 3, though, whoever wins of those 3 in the last race.
No,
don't do it that way?
No, it doesn't work that way. And I've already talked to Chris about having to change it next year. Yeah. Actually, it should be next year, just kind of like NASCAR. If you win, you're in, and then you take maybe the 2 points guys. Yeah. So then you have maybe 7, 8 cars. 9 cars fighting for championships, and that's when you make it winner take all. Yeah, whoever finishes in the highest order wins the championship. This is still a convoluted point system, kind of like NASCAR, where just like Martin Truex, he can crap the bed and still go into the next round just because he loaded up so many points beforehand. So it looks like Burt Myers is going to be your Smart Series champion. That doesn't mean don't go out to the race in Orange County. It's still going to be an exciting race as people fight for other things. But the race itself in South Boston, I thought was an exciting race, especially when you said Bobby spun out, but then fought his way back to the front. Cash drove very strong all day, and I think you were the one that kind of told me that Cash was battling a vibrating car during that race too. And I just love watching Jonathan Cash drive our second car when he gets those opportunities, because, man, he puts it out there. And this is a guy who's been involved in karting and achieved greatness in karting. But when he gets in that modified in the Southern Tour, he's on fire. And he has parked us a bunch of top 10s and top 5s this year every time he's gotten in the car. So I watched him with excitement all day. It went back and forth. You had Carson Lofton, that number 1 car, out in front most of the day. And then you had Jankowiak, the guy from up north who said he was going to come down and run this race. And he and Lofton were battling for first and second. But it was an amazing race. And Bobby fought his way all the way back from the back. Then we go, and after his spin out, he pitted. Yeah. And what happened there?
Well, there was some confusion on pit road being open. Several drivers, when pit road was open, pitted, and then it was closed again. So
is that a Chris Williams special? No, he wasn't directing. It was Hoots.
No intent on anybody.
We've had on this podcast
3 or 4 cars, I guess, got caught in the transition of it's not open, it's open, it's not open. So we were one of the several cars that pitted too early. Got penalized for that. I don't think we should have been penalized for that, but we were. So, Bobby really went to the back of the field twice and drove back up to a 6th place finish. Ultimately, wouldn't have mattered. The way the 23 ran, he was fast all day. He ended up finishing 2nd, and he was going to be hard to beat that particular day. The 23 picked a good race to kind of put it all together, and really should have won the race. He really probably spun his tires and made a mistake on the last restart.
We had a bunch of yellows right there with the last.
It always is that way. People start fighting for position. So overall, I told Bobby after the race, the last race prior to this race, Tri-County, Bobby won and made it look easy. But at South Boston, Bobby drove probably what I thought was his best race.
I agree.
Driving for us.
He passed everybody at least twice.
He came through the field 2 different, and those cars are hard to pass.
Yeah.
Driving. And so I thought we had good speed.
We were number 1 and 2 in practice, weren't we?
Yeah. We, everything was there, but we just didn't have circumstances go our way. So
Andy Jankowiak finishes first. He's from up north. Carson Lofton 2nd. Joey Coulter 3rd. Tom Buzzy's son got a 4th place finish. He's been running really well towards the end of the season, and we love Tom Buzzy. And then 5th, Tim Brown. 6th, Bobby Labonte in the 18. 7th, Burt Myers. 8th, Jason Myers gets a top 10. Bobby Meismer 9th. Jake Crum 10th. And Jonathan Cash finished 11th after having some vibration in his car that affected him.
Yeah, there were times when Cash was one of the fastest cars on the track. He had a vibration. We came in, swapped less, went back out, and he drove from 15th, 16th back up to 4th or 5th, and then he picked up another vibration towards the end. But Jonathan's fun to watch. He loves the opportunity. He races hard, gives good feedback. Our guys enjoy working with him because they know he appreciates the opportunity that he gets. And so with that 11th place finish, we were able to move forward. So moving to Orange County on the 28th, a week from Saturday, we will have a chance to race for the Owners Championship at Orange County Speedway.
That's pretty exciting in our second year. That says something. We went from 1-car team last year to a 2-car team this year. There are growing pains that come with that. We've had some ups and downs, but here we are in the hunt for an Owners Championship with one of our cars, the 39. Bobby shot up the list as well. It's going to be a fun race, and everybody should get out to Orange County. It's the Martinsville Wheeling race that we're running both Bobby and Ryan Newman in. Is on Thursday, the 26th.
That's right.
And then the 28th is Orange County, right across the Virginia line, just about 45 minutes south of Danville. Come out there and see that race.
Rougemont, North Carolina.
So there was a little bit of post-race excitement, and there was pre-tech excitement with our team too. There was one team who was fighting for the championship, maybe in the top 3, who kept protesting everybody. Protested us, did they not?
Yeah, both of our cars, which I had really never seen that happen, because all these races, smart modified tour races, are what we call impound races, which means after qualifying, you are not allowed to go back to the pit and work on it anymore.
Okay.
You can make small adjustments on pit road prior to the race within the guidelines of what the Smart Tour tells you. But after our cars qualified the other day, one of our fellow competitors that we were battling for a top 3 position chose to protest both of our cars on left side weight. He didn't think our cars were heavy enough on the left side.
Huh.
And so...
What kind of advantage does that give somebody if we're light on the left side?
With these cars, I don't know, other than you have to... I can't see where being light on the left side will help the car at all.
Okay.
But, so, and I went and asked Chris Williams, the series director, how could we be protested after initial inspection and after pre-qualifying inspection? If we passed initial inspection and we passed pre-qualifying inspection, which we did, and this is an impound race, how could we be protested? And he indicated that anybody could be protested at any time, and is a $500 per car protest fee. So both our cars got protested. They reset the scales. We rolled both our cars back across the scales. Both of our cars were legal. And so at the end of the day, no harm, no foul. But it was kind of a cheap shot attempt by somebody we were competing with in the race to try to get us thrown to the back.
And what happens with that money?
We get it.
So we get the $1,000.
We do.
500 times 2.
That's right.
From them.
Yep.
So that's taken out of their purse money, or they just got to...
Do
they give them the money before the inspection? So that money is...
You need to talk to your friend Chris about that. I'm not sure actually how that's handled, but I did ask that question to make sure that was a paid deal, and if we're legal, we get to keep it, and I was assured that was the case.
So then the 73 Andy Jankowiak, who won the race, came up from the north, as I said earlier. They protested his. I guess they pulled his engine after the race. Smart just released a statement saying it was within compliance of the motor requirements of the Smart Tour. So he's declared the winner. But also the same people, from what I heard, protested the height or the angle of his rear spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
And but didn't do it until after the race. And I guess either the techs missed it in pre-race tech, but Smart decided not to do anything except fine Jankowiak $750 for that. I mean, I guess, if they missed it and they said he was okay pre-qualifying,
which is my point on ours too. Yeah.
Then that's the way it is. But I'm telling you what, those people that were kind of fighting for the third position, that team was willing, they would have protested their own mama if they thought they would get them to second place. And, but I was really proud of the team. I was really proud of Bobby. Bobby Labonte calls me up that night and said, "Man, I'm sorry." I said, "What are you sorry about? That was one of the most exciting races. You passed everybody except the lady at the ticket office who was selling tickets." And he said, "Well, I did when I pulled my RV out." And so I said, "So you even passed her?" I mean, he did such a great run. We're really
he drove great.
So we're really looking forward to what's coming up on the 28th.
26th at Martinsville and 28th at Orange County.
And we're just excited. This is finishing out the year. We've got our drivers, Ryan Newman, Bobby Labonte. We've got the 39 out there. We got the 18. And you may have a little bit of a surprise for all of the modified race fans at Martinsville. We'll see if you pull that rabbit out of the hat. We won't tell you now, but we'll tell you about it later. But I'm excited for the end of the season. I think we did pretty good this year.
Yeah, it's
came around at the end too.
It's been a process, and the series is growing. The notoriety of it's growing. A lot more people in and around the Commonwealth of Virginia and the Mid-Atlantic region know what Pace-O-Matic is now that didn't know what it was a couple years ago.
Yeah, and they've been great too.
And
a lot more people know who Alan Joseph is. So there you go.
They just can't talk to him.
Right, because you can't understand.
Right.
But anyway, we're going to go prep for our court case. We're going to go dig deep and fight for these small businesses. But I certainly have enjoyed this second segment with you. I hope you out there in podcast land are enjoying every episode that we bring to you. We have a huge library you can find on all the major platforms. Go back and listen to some of our really funny ones. And if you've just started listening, go back and kind of regroup and find out all the great interviews we've done with wrestlers, racers, politicians, and all the opinions we've had and the funny stories with Shep Moss, Cranking the Weed Eater, big strike zones. They're all in there for everybody to listen to. Plus, you can catch us on www.sadlerstanleyracing.com. You can catch us on www.leaningrightturningleft.com. We're on social media and Facebook and Twitter at Sadler Senator, and then Leaning Right Turning Left podcast on Facebook. Look us up, tell your friends, give us a 5-star rating if you get the chance, but we really appreciate you listening. That's the biggest thing, because we bring this to you because we're passionate about what we do, whether it's race and politics or this lawsuit. That means so much to so many people, and not just on the micro level of small businesses with skill games, but on the macro level of how government can affect your daily lives. And so it's very important that you listen, and we're grateful that you do. Hermie, I'm actually going to end this show without going an extra 5 minutes. What do you think about that?
Well,
how about that?
You just went an extra 4. So.
Yeah, but I was giving all the tags.
Yeah.
But we want to thank everybody at Pace-O-Matic. We want to thank everybody with Podcast Heat who puts this on. Wesley, our editor, does an incredible job. We really appreciate him, too. And we're going to see you next week with an exciting episode, I'm sure, with more to talk about and more people to talk to. I'm Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley. I'm leaning right.
And I'm Hermie Sadler, and I'm turning left. Thank you all for listening. Thanks to Pace-O-Matic, and we'll see you next week with another edition of Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pace-O-Matic.
God bless you all.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson with SaveWithConrad.com. You've heard me bragging on the podcast for years about helping people save money on their current house, but did you know that I can help you with your next house as well? That's right, we can get you into your next house with zero down. No money down loan programs are still available, and I know it sounds too good to be true, but we can do it for you. And by the way, home ownership is more affordable than you might think. We routinely turn renters into homeowners, and we hear back that their new house payment is more affordable than what they were paying in rent. Why would you keep doing that? Stop throwing your money away, paying for someone else's mortgage, and start building wealth for your family. And let my family help at SaveWithConrad.com. You don't need perfect credit to do this. We can improve credit scores down to the 500s, and it's worth mentioning, we never say no. We say not yet, but here's how. You need a game plan to buy a house, and that's where we come in at SaveWithConrad.com. We'll ask you, what down payment do you want to make? And 0 is an acceptable answer. And what monthly payment do you want? And then it's time to go shopping. Find out how easy it is and how affordable it is to become a homeowner at SaveWithConrad.com.